Hi everyone, I thought I'd do a quick live just because there's been quite a few questions and so on. Just want to give a bit of background on some of the things that I've been covering for everyone. If you want the work experience, the remote work experience with my asset management company, because it'll help your CV, it's all virtual. There's a whole training program, it's all completely free that I take you through. Then just have a look at the links in the bio. You'll find it there. If you want to download my book, it's links in the bio as well. In terms of career advice, I should point out, people said to me, how do I get into investment banking, hedge funds, all the rest of it? I actually got into that area because I loved it. I didn't do it because I thought it'll help me earn more money, etc. I did it because I loved it. And so in the end, I ended up leaving what I thought I was going to love, which was being a barrister, to invest and create my own firm. So in a way, I guess I'm more an entrepreneur than I am somebody in the city. So I better clarify that, because I'm not the best person to advise people how to get jobs in the city, for the simple reason I created my own. I do hire people, therefore I can give advice on what kind of CVs we look for. But for me, I always wanted to be self-employed. So that's how I ended up becoming, having my own asset management company. I set it up because I wanted to be self-employed. Now, it doesn't matter that you don't. Probably only 1% of people want to be and should be. But it's just in case you wanted those kind of those insights into why and how to choose careers. Those looking at investments, I've got behind me a whole spreadsheet of 9,000 global equities, everything from UK to US. So I've just finished uploading. Well, I've just finished looking at that rather. And anyway, so that's there. Now let me answer some questions. What have we got? What have we got? What have we got? How do I get into finance from a software developer? So look, for me, the journey into my career was because I created the firm because at 4 a.m, I just loved it so much, what I was doing. And for me, oddly enough, it was finance, which I loved doing. So I'm not sure I'm the best person to advise somebody how to get into finance, because I had to create that universe myself of my own firm. I didn't do the sort of the conventional milk rounds, as they call them, and the applications that way. So how do you get into finance? The best answer I can give, and it's not a good one, you should speak to others, is have a look on LinkedIn at the CVs of the people at the places you might want to work at and see what they've done, what their backgrounds are. And that'll give you a good insight into how to get into their areas, especially if somebody's made a similar jump, because you'll see what qualifications they did and how they did it. And occasionally just ask them a question. People who've got to a certain degree of grey hairs. Two things about them. First of all, it only feels like yesterday they were students. I guarantee you that. And secondly, they're more than happy usually to give you pointers, because they've got nothing to lose. They're not competing with you. So ask them on LinkedIn. Okay, if you want to join with me on LinkedIn, my links are in the bio. Okay, my links are in the bio. How did you get so good at speaking? Well, I was actually the shyest boy at school. And I tell you, if there's a secret to success, it is public speaking. And I was the shyest boy at school. Even my family thought I was ridiculously shy. So how does one overcome that? For me, I actually used to do a lot of practicing. I bought a book of the greatest speeches in history. I was fascinated by speeches. And I'd read some of those speeches, and it could be anybody. It could be, Queen Elizabeth. It could be William Shakespeare. It could be Winston Churchill, whoever. And I'd practice just in my own room quietly, because I was too embarrassed my family would hear me, practice delivering them. And then I learned a little bit about hand gestures and so on. And I had to do this because I planned to become a barrister. And you might say, wait a minute, that's like a guy who's scared of heights saying he's going to be a window cleaner of skyscrapers. Yeah, because I always confront my fears. The things that I am most afraid of, I just have to do. So when I find something that I'm afraid of, I hate it, because it means, damn, I'm going to have to do it. Right, I can't swim, by the way. I should tell you, I'm a really poor swimmer, because I kept moving schools when I was young, as a kid, not because of any disciplinary problems, but in different countries and so on. And so I never learned to swim. So guess what I do nowadays? Well, if I'm ever whitewater rafting, I have to jump in the water. Why? Because I'm afraid of it. So I have to do it. I have to go snorkeling because I'm afraid of water. Okay, so I have to bloody do it. And it's the same thing with public speaking. I made up my mind. Well, that's where I want to get to. This is where I want to get to. This is where I am. Right, we've got a problem. How do I get around that problem? and you just keep thinking, how am I going to get around it? Well, I know practice must help. I know thinking about it. I know visualizing must help because people keep saying it. And so I kept trying to solve the problem, like any problem. Like, in maths you have problems, or physics, or school, they're great at teaching you problems, until I could solve the bloody problem. And that's how I did it, and just kept practicing. And then I got my own TV show on Bloomberg, and I'm flown around the world for public speaking gigs and paid for it. That's just luck. That is luck. And I was in the right place, right time for that. But I got to say, it was good. Oh, the other thing with public speaking that I practice, and certainly when I got my TV show on Bloomberg, was I pretend I'm just talking one-to-one. I'm having a conversation with one person. So when I do the BBC stuff that you might have seen me do on my YouTube, and the links were in the bio, and I do the paper review, people ask me, oh, so how come do they tell you in advance what you're going to talk about on air? And I say, no, I just pretend I'm speaking to whoever the presenter is, Sally or whoever. I'm just speaking to them one-to-one. Okay, and guess what? It works a treat. I'll just put that in the screen behind me. And that's what you do. You just pretend, and that's authenticity. You just pretend you're in the room with that person and nobody else. And guess what? It works as a way of doing things. I'm just going to try and put that in, like I said, the screen above. But anyway, and yeah, I just monitored and observed other people who were doing a similar thing. Okay, would you put yourself up there with Kathy Wood? No, she does something very different. She's a long-only fund manager. We do invest on the upside. It's a very different thing. I tell you the biggest difference between her and me. She's got billions to manage. I don't have billions to manage. We're in the millions, tens of millions. And it's taken 15 years to get there. So when you've got billions to manage, it's a different set of problems, because you can't invest in the things I can invest in, because I can invest in smaller companies. She can't. If she tried to invest in smaller companies, she'd end up taking them over. So I wouldn't put myself up there with that. And the other reason I wouldn't is because she's far more successful than me. If you measure success by the assets under management, which I would, because I'm in that industry, and she's more successful because she's well, that's it. What I just said, got these funds in the public imagination. So I really admire her. And I haven't managed to do it. I mean, I've done other things, don't get me wrong. But no, she's done incredibly well. And, people say to me, oh, success, when it comes to investing or hedge funds, whatever, success, it's not all about money. No, of course it's not about money. Money won't bring you happiness. So I did a little social experiment. I went to Harrods, and I went to Poundland, and I went to Lidl, and I went to Tesco, and I went in and I bought a basket full of goods. I took it to the cashier and I said, so can I pay with these with my inner happiness? And I'm a really good dad and a nice person. I give to charity. And the guy said, mate, I'm on minimum wage. Just give me money, will you? Yeah, you're right. Money isn't that important, but inner happiness won't pay for goods. So what can I say? Because people, whenever I talk about sort of measurements of success, they always state the obvious. Oh, it's not money that'll make you happy. I know. It's what will pay for the food, which has to go in my stomach, because I'm not really good at growing my own. Other questions? In case I've missed any, just let me know. This was just meant to be a really quick one. And like I said, I just wanted to remind people. I have a law degree, 2-1. I want to become an MP. Do you think the civil service fast track is good? Several questions there. You want to become an MP, get in touch with the parties and, make sure, and they're starting earlier and earlier now. Okay. So make sure you've filled in the forms for the applications and everything else. The thing with being an MP is this, and I've got some inside track knowledge on this. I'm not going to go into more detail than that, but I'm going to tell you that I've got some insider knowledge on this. One person said to me, and it was one of the cleverest things I've ever heard. He said to me, if you want to be an MP, I want to know that when you walk into a room, you think that you're the cleverest person in the room. Now, he said, not through arrogance, not through ego, not through what you know, but because you believe if you're given all the facts and the same facts as everyone else in that room and the same information, you've got better judgment. Practice on your judgment. How do you practice on judgment? Not sure, but you can work it out, I'm sure, and it's a conversation for another time. You've got the best judgment, okay? The other thing he said is, if we give you a route to cabinet, what's the body of legislation you want to enact? So if you want to be an MP, that's fine, but what's the body of laws you think need changing? Is it social housing? Is it wealth creation? Is it entrepreneurship? Is it international trade? Is it our prison services? Is it the National Health Service? What are the bodies of law you would want changed? As well as, of course, being a good constituency MP, you know, and dealing with the day-to-day problems that people have, being able to sort of be their enforcer in government or whatever else to try and help solve their problems. Civil service fast track is good. You don't need it to become an MP. My wife is a civil servant. I work with government, as you might know if you've seen my links in government. I work with the Department for International Trade and our Foreign Office around the world. And yes, it is good. Make no mistake, civil service fast track is good. I've got a cousin who was at the Treasury. I've got two who are at the Treasury. One's gone on to become a partner at Deloitte. The other one... Whoops, that might stop things. So yeah, civil service fast track is good. There is, you know, and you might say, well, it depends what you want to do, blah, blah, blah. No, it's great training. Just like being a barrister is great training. If you said to me, I'm going to become a barrister for the training. Yeah, it is good training. And I think it's good to have good training from a good professional organisation like the British Civil Service. So most definitely. And, you know, you can leave after 2 years if you so wish. They'll be glad that you were there for just even the 2 years that you were there. Any other questions about investing, stock market, careers, anything at all? I know often with my TikTok, believe it or not, I'm sure 80% of you are in your 20s. But the funny thing is, about 20% of you are in your 40s and 50s. And I think TikTok's just the best educational tool I've ever seen. I just think it's phenomenal. We used to have a show on Bloomberg. On my show, we used to do what was called the Alpesh Patel Minute. And it was 60 seconds of me talking to camera. Yes, it was purely ego-driven. I was in my 20s when I had the show. So it was purely ego-driven. And before you say it, yes, that was another millennia ago. And no, I wasn't there when Jesus was crucified and when, you know, Queen Elizabeth I was on the throne. But anyway, enough of the oldie jokes. We used to talk 60 seconds to the camera about investing topics. So I love TikTok because we have to educate people with 60-second talks to the camera. And that's what TikTok is. So, right. Okay. If there's no other questions, for now, I apologize. This was meant to be really quick and short. So I'm scared of women. Should I become a woman as a job? Yeah, don't become a comedian, whatever you do as a job. I was wondering if I could get in contact with you personally so we can discuss statistical investing. I'll try and create the time. Join me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn, send me your message through there. And I'll try and find the time regarding statistical investing. It does tend to work well for us anyway. We hold for 12 months. We do look at the distribution curves aligned for fat tails of specific stocks, and it does help us. Brown boys stay winning. Is that true? Brown boys stay winning. Is that true? I'm not sure what you mean. Yes, of course it's true. Okay. Do you think the University of Nottingham is good for going into finance? I'm attending there in September. This has been a popular question of its type, not necessarily about Nottingham. It is where people say to me, look, I'm not at Oxford, Cambridge, UCL, LSE, King's, you know, one of the branded, let's call it branded universities. Can I still get into finance? Let me tell you as an interviewer. All right, I interview people for my firm. I'm going to have, like I do with stocks, I'm going to have a whole stack of CVs. Now, if I've got one from somebody from Oxford and somebody from Nottingham, of itself, that doesn't mean I go for one over the other. I've got to then look, well, if the guy from Nottingham got a first and the guy from Oxford got a third, then I really want to interview that guy from Nottingham and the one from Oxford's going in the bin. Okay? So all I'm saying is, it's like a point system. Yes, there is a certain number of points for having gone to Oxford or Cambridge or LSE, but you'll get more points if you get a first. Or if, you know, in some way you excelled and showed it. I can't say, yeah, guess what? You got C's at GCSE, C's at A-level, you went and you got a 2-2, and I'm still going to give you a job at Goldman Sachs. It doesn't work like that. They need to see some degree of exceptionalness. in some way, I'm afraid. So, you know, and it might be that, look, it doesn't have to be Goldman Sachs. You might say, well, actually, you know what, Alpesh, I was talking to somebody recently. It could be wealth management at St. James's Place. You might be really good at customer relations and be able to bring in lots of capital. So yes, you can go into finance. If by finance you mean financial services more broadly, it could be an advisory stock brokerage and so on. So there's a lot of jobs in finance. And Nottingham by no means would be an entry block. In one sense, no university will be a block. The only thing which will block is if you lack the skills and can't display those skills. So let's say you can't get a sentence out. Well, they'll say, well, we're not going to put you in customer services, aren't we? Or not customer services, they call it investor relations. So there will be roles, but you've got to work out what are my strengths and how do I show those how do I signal them? All right, to other people. What advice would you give to an employee who is investing in spare time? Just expand upon that, would you? I'm not sure what you mean. What advice would I give to an employee who's investing in the spare time? I mean, I was doing that, and eventually what happened to me was, so as a barrister, I'd look at all my legal papers, but to make sure I'm not showing anything back here. I'd look at all my legal papers and finish it and be in the law library. And I'd be on the phone. In those days, we didn't use the internet wasn't that great. And I'd be on the phone to Charles Schwab and their options desk and saying, okay, what's the price, on this now and on now and now, call them 100 times a day. And that's when I realized I should leave. So if you're investing in your spare time and you're enjoying it more than you do the main job, find a route to doing what you enjoy, because as long as it pays. Look, there's a couple of circles, concentric circles. There's what you enjoy, there's what pays, okay? If you can find the sweet spot between the two of them, you're laughing. Now, can I, with a magic wand, wave that for each of you? I wish I could. But try and find that, because if you end up with something which just pays a lot, great. You'll have done fantastic things for your accumulation of assets and for your family, and there's nothing wrong with that, doing jobs which pay just for the pay, but it will be soul destroying after a while. So you'll want an exit into moving into the other box, which is things you enjoy. But if you start off from the beginning with things you enjoy which pay well, you're laughing. That's very few people who are going to do that. They're going to be the lucky few. Perversely, I enjoy investing, and it's not the money. I just enjoy investing. Now, why? I don't know. Why would anybody enjoy investing? I don't know. I love it, so I'm lucky. But find whatever you enjoy, and ideally it can pay as well. What do you think is better, working your way up a bank? Or college? Brilliant question. So traditionally one would always say, well, I would always say college, obviously. Go to college and, you've got your qualifications. It's something to fall back on, etc. If you think you've got an entrepreneurial spark, and there's only about 10%, maybe 1% of the world that has this, the passion, the drive at 4 a.m., it keeps you awake and you say, I just got to do this. Okay. And the 4 a.m. test is important. Right, and like my friend Biku, my best friend left school at 16. Now I went to, I was a fellow, a Don at Oxford, right? So that's the opposite end of what he was, and he's my best friend. He left school at 16. And the reason he's my best friend is, although he left school at 16, state school educated, single mum raised him, the exact opposite of what you might think of me, okay? But I have a lot more in common with him than people realise. And he lived in Hounslow in West London. It's not a particularly salubrious part of London. He joined Barclays in their retail banking, managed to get his way into managing one branch, then two, then three, and then was managing a whole bunch. By the time he was 30, he said, right, I'm leaving. And I said, why are you leaving? Because at this rate, you could become CEO of Barclays one day. It just so happens he and I know the CEO of Barclays in the UK. I said, yeah, you could be in his place one day. And he instead said, no, I'm going to leave. I need to make proper money. And he had the entrepreneurial wherewithal to start making his own money. And he did on the internet. And it was an area of marketing arbitrage. And I still don't understand it. He'd buy bulk adverts in one area, sell them in another. But he tried 100 things before that. And I said, how do you get these ideas? How are you so entrepreneurial and you can just do this? And I admired it. He said he would just keep going to conferences. Now, today you can't go to conferences, so the equivalent would be, YouTube or Clubhouse or whatever. And he would just listen, probably Clubhouse, and just listen and listen and listen and listen and try things out and learn them and see that, okay, a lot of things people were saying was BS and wasn't making money. But now, if you've got that entrepreneurial gene pool, like Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates, then yeah, drop out. But if you haven't, and I didn't have that level of entrepreneurial genius, then definitely college is the more reward maximizing, risk mitigating strategy. It's about strategies. It reduces your risk that much more. What do you think of Forex, and what's the best way to learn? Forex is risky, and I'll tell you why. We trade Forex, okay? You can't quite see the book over my shoulder. It's there. I interviewed 10 of the world's leading traders for my very first book, which the Financial Times published. And one of those leading traders was a chap, and this is when I was at university, was a chap called Bill Lipschutz, global head of foreign exchange trading at Salomon. So he was the world's largest Forex trader. And he became my mentor because through the book, I met him out in New York, and then in London. And he taught me his strategies, and there were 9 others who taught me their strategies, and they became mentors and so on. And if you look on any UK brokerage, you'll see by law, the Financial Conduct Authority, the regulator, requires that those brokers have to state how many of their clients win. 80% lose money, 20% win, 80% lose money. Now you might say, well, I don't mind those odds actually, Alpesh, because only 10% of businesses in any industry survive after 3 years. So 20% making money a year is okay. That's the biggest problem. If you want to learn how to do all of it, I converted my books into videos. It's all free on the links in the bio. And I converted them into videos because I had great content, but nobody reads books anymore. And I thought, well, I don't want to waste this. I still want to force feed people with my views, so I created it into videos, and they're all free, like I said, in the links in the bio. Do you recommend investing in buy-to-let properties? I'm just not an expert. My family keeps shouting at me saying, invest in buy-to-let. I'm probably the only Patel, the only Gujarati, the only Indian who isn't a natural-born property expert. So my broad answer is yes. You're asking a non-expert, so you might as well discount it. But why don't you research it? Why don't you look into it? Thoughts on cryptocurrencies? Cryptocurrencies for me are what I call a FOMO trade, fear of missing out trade. So I own Ripple, Ethereum. If you want to get Bitcoin, the reason you do it is you say, I'm afraid of missing out. It could go to the moon or it could go to zero, and I'll give myself 10 years and I'll forget that, and it's risk capital, and I'll forget about it because it's risk capital. That's the only strategy I can think of. But any investment, I always try and think, what's the strategy? And strategies involve what's the worst case, what's the best case, and what's the time frame. And if you reduce your time frame, and you elevate the best case and you reduce the low case, you're basically increasing risk and dreaming. So if you say, oh, the best case is I double my money by next week, and the downside is I won't ever lose anything, well, you're dreaming, aren't you? So with the more volatile the product, the longer the time frame you have to give yourself to be more likely to be right. So with Bitcoin, I would say I'm not going to try and forecast what it's going to be next week or tomorrow or in the next 5 minutes. What I'll say is in 10 years, it'll either be up 100-fold from where it is, or it'll be zero in 10 years. Now you might say, well, that's not very clever. That's such a wide range of values. That's the best I can do. Hey, speak to someone else. So you do your FOMO trades on those, and with risk capital only. Okay. I better get going because, like I said, I promised to do a short one. How do you trade options in the UK? I can't find brokers that support it. I used to trade options through Charles Schwab in the UK when they were, and they're still in the UK. I don't know who's doing options now. It might be IG have got options. The reason I stopped doing options is because I was doing them for leverage. So I just then started using CFDs in any event. And options. Yeah, and the spreads were too expensive and the commissions were too expensive when I was doing it, and that was early 90s. And then I moved, like I said, to CFDs. Okay, so now I definitely better go. Does your fund do HFT? No, a great question. High frequency trading requires so much infrastructure. I'll give you an example. When you're setting up a fund, you've got although most of these costs come out of the fund, they're amortized over, which means spread out over 4 years and charged to the fund. But you've got lawyers, accountants, auditors, compliance teams, inherent costs with your prime brokers and administrators who manage the funds. And then you've got to replicate that in the fund domicile as well as where the fund is resident. So, for instance, our company is resident in the United Kingdom, but the funds were domiciled initially in the Cayman Islands. So the problem you then have, now they're domiciled in Luxembourg. So the problem you then have is that you've got costs, and then you've got to have an office. We pay about £15,000 a month in rent, and you might think, rent? Why don't you own the building? It's in flipping Mayfair. I wish I could own it, but I don't have, God knows, 20 million to own the whole bloody building, and we only need a room, so I'm not an idiot. I mean, that's all money going out of the pocket. I once remember saying to my grandmother, saying, hey, we've just hired a new person. And I thought she'd be impressed. And look, aren't I all grown up? I've hired a new person. And she said, well, who's going to pay for it? And I just realised, you know what? This new way of working, she was well ahead of her time. Screw offices, screw lots of expensive staff. And similarly, that's the problem with HFT. We can't afford the few million. Not that I want to afford the few million. I'd rather keep the money and do the kind of trading we do. So we don't do HFT. We wouldn't have an edge in it. If we don't have an edge, why would I do it? I'm penultimate economics and finance student looking for summer internship opportunities. Have a look at the links in my bio. I've created a virtual internship, and it gives people a certificate. It's a virtual course of materials, but also, so it's not just materials. I want to feel like I'm an intern with you, Alpesh. There's a Telegram channel. You stick it on your desk. Everything I read and see at my desk here will appear on your desk automatically, including research reports. Okay, so you'll see the same stuff. And then you can message me and email me for questions during that. But the idea with that virtual internship is, how can it be as close to being in my office as possible? Well, you'll see the materials we look at. You'll get the education we teach if you were in my office from me, with videos by me and articles by me, and you'll get the instant messenger. All of that's free, by the way. So just have a look in the messages, in the links in the bio, and that will also give you a certificate. But the beauty of it is, because it's remote or virtual, you can be anywhere in the world and do it, and also still do another internship at the same time. So you'll have two, and you can put it on your CV as well. Because if a referee asks me, what's this course then, that he claims to have done, I can say, well, here it is, have a look, and who I am. So that should help as well. Is accounting and finance a good degree to study? It's a really difficult question when people ask me that, because it is in broad terms, solid set of stuff, but it's a bad degree if you can't do it or you're not going to enjoy it. Having said that, look, let's not put too much weight on enjoyment. Sometimes for our families, we just have to do things which will put food on the table. Look, I don't know if you're a billionaire. If you're a billionaire, no, don't do accounting and finance. Go bloody do something else, because you can afford to. If you are, living in a council estate hand to mouth, then yes, it is a good degree, because it will more likely give social mobility than a degree in knitting. I don't mean to be facetious, but what I'm saying is, in broad terms, yes. Without knowing more, yes, because it opens up more doors and it's a serious degree. And it teaches you serious, valuable skills. There'll be skills that I could use. If somebody says, oh, Alpesh, look, I've got a degree in history, I'm going to be like, oh, okay, you can research some articles for me. But if you say accounting and finance, they say, great, I can give you this harder stuff to do, and you'll be familiar with being able to do it. So and I'd be proud of somebody who's got a degree in accounting and finance. Let's put it that way. Why is there only 50? Oh, thank you. Thanks. Thank you. What are my principles? What a great question. Let me put it this way, not necessarily principle. Oh, by the way, have a look at Jordan Peterson's stuff. I don't know if you already have. I do like his way of looking at things. So have a look at his stuff. I also believe in giving people second chances. I try and reach out in a hand of friendship to people, even if they've slapped me first time, but not if they've slapped it second time, because then the barrister in me comes out and I just want to sue the crap out of them. So don't mistake friendliness for niceness necessarily if somebody tries to take advantage. But principles. I try not to do harm, I guess, to people, unless they try and harm me, but that doesn't happen that often. How much do you pay your staff? And that's a brilliant question. So because we're a small fund, in the sense that we don't have billions under management, we don't hire people out of Goldman Sachs. We hire them out of university. So I'll give you an example. I'll give you a classic example. Naomi did a degree in English language from UCL, and she joined me at the age of 18 as my personal assistant. And I taught her a lot of stuff. After about 5 years, she left. She joined Newton. They taught her some stuff. She manages £10 billion in assets under management. Okay, so when I paid her, I was probably paying her about, this is going back about 10 years, about, I don't know, £35,000 for somebody who was 18. How much did Newton pay her? I don't know, she's probably on $1 million a year now, I would have thought. Probably $750,000. So we pay quite well, I guess, for people, but we pick cheaper people. In other words, straight out of university, because we can't afford to pay her $1 million. Well, we could, but it wouldn't make sense, would it? Because why would I pay her $1 million when I can train her up? It's a bit like with football teams. There are those who try and, I'm a Leeds United supporter, they try and train the talent up and build it up. And it's a lot cheaper than going out to buying somebody off Man City or Chelsea. So hopefully that explains it a little bit on that one. I do enjoy talking to you all because they're great questions. Advice for starting at Oxford in October. Well, congratulations. What subject? Let me know. Advice. Okay, well, depending on the subject, I read PPE at Oxford and I was some really good books you should read, no matter what you're doing. Thinking About Thinking by Anthony Flew. Okay. It's a very thin book, Thinking About Thinking by Anthony Flew. The next one, Thinking Strategically by Avinash Dixit. These were two on the recommended list before I went up to Oxford. And so I highly recommend them because they did help me a lot in my thinking and clarity of thought. And it's clarity of thought, which is incredibly important, not just at university, but in life, because it's the thing I said earlier on. You've got to walk into a room and think that I'm the cleverest person there, not because I'm arrogant, not because I know more, but because with the same amount of information, I will formulate a better judgment. And judgment requires clarity of thought, logic, reasoning, persuasiveness. Okay? To get some of those, you'll need tools because they're not just necessarily innate. Some come from experience, some are innate. Thinking About Thinking by Anthony Flew and Thinking Strategically by Avinash Dixit, they're good. There'll be other books as well, I am sure. But there'll be others. But I recommend those two. Listen, you guys make me feel wonderful by even being on here. It's great. I better run because I've got a few other things to do. I'll try and do more of these lives. I know I've probably not done too many, but I'll try and do more of them as well. Look at the links in the bio. You'll be able to download my investment book for free. It's got a tremendous amount of research if you're looking to get into the industry or you just want to invest. And for all of you who are in your 20s, actually, it'd be great if you just put in what age you are in there. Those who are in your 20s, put 20s, 30s, 40s, 40s, 50s. In your 20s, probably the greatest thing you could do looking back, well, first of all, time goes like this. Number one, take lots of pictures. Post them privately on Facebook if you want, but it's a great way of keeping a diary. Honestly, it goes like this. And secondly, in your 20s, invest a little bit. Save if you can and invest because it multiplies exponentially at the back end of your life when you'll want to take things easier, like when you're in your 40s and 50s and 60s. It costs a lot of pain in your 20s because I'll go out and have a meal, I'll go to the restaurant and do those things, have fun. But if you can and you're lucky enough to save a bit, try. Even if it's £1,000, try if you can. And I know for many of you it's not possible because I know when you're young, I didn't have it. I shared an apartment with rats. Should I invest in index funds at 20? Yeah, if you don't know anything else, then that's good. I'd probably say just learn about investing, and that's why I have my campaign for $1million.com, which is a free campaign to teach people how to invest better because I can't wire money into your accounts, but what I can do, not that you'd want it anyway, but because it'd be patronizing, but what I can do is wire what I know, both as an asset manager, both as an author of 18 books on investing, both as a Financial Times columnist and a Bloomberg TV presenter on those subjects. So I can wire that knowledge to you for free, and that's I've put on the links in the bio. And the reason I've done it for free is because somebody's already paid for it. Okay, when somebody bought the Financial Times newspaper and the FT paid me, somebody already paid for that knowledge. And I'm just sharing it with you guys for free. So the rich buggers who buy the FT, only costs £1, they paid for that knowledge. You guys, your students, you young on here, you shouldn't have to pay for it. So it's all free on the links, okay? As well. Becoming a corporate lawyer. Thoughts? So I've got to answer this. That's what I was going to do. I have a degree in philosophy, politics and economics and a degree in law. Don't. And I trained as a barrister. I qualified. I was at Mark Lippmann's set, which is heavily into corporate in Gray's Inn Square. and I was going to be a corporate lawyer. And then I realized I don't want to do this. It's going to be soul destroying for me. Okay, I can only tell you what it was for me. I've got friends who are corporate lawyers and they love it. God bless them. But I realized this is going to be soul destroying. This is going to be boring. And I don't want to travel in that metal tube that they have in London each morning and suffocate to death. Now, that's for me. I admire people who do that because they do whatever the hell it takes to put food on the table for themselves and their family. And God bless them. They're better people than me. I couldn't do that, right? And so I left and did investment. I set up my own business, but it took me 5 years to make any proper money at all. All right. So I was 30 before I actually had something where I could say, oh, actually, yeah, no, maybe 27, 28. Okay. Before I had, and then I had an apartment in St. John's Wood. So yeah, that was, it suddenly went like that. So what I'd say is this. Corporate lawyer, great, you'll earn good money, but just make sure none of these jobs, whatever the job is, destroys your soul, okay, in the sense of your fulfillment. And I don't know what works for you. Listen, trust me, I've got friends who are corporate lawyers and they head up their firms and they're incredibly, ridiculously, stupidly happy. I've got others who probably cry into their pillows each night saying, why am I doing this? Why did I do this? So just always think what you want to do. I've got other friends who've got corporate lawyers in the Cayman Islands. They're corporate lawyers in the Cayman Islands. So they love it because they're going, yeah, I'm going to do corporate law, got money, don't like it so much, but you know what? The sunshine's great. My pupil mistress, the lady who taught me, who was my at the bar, she's based out in the Turks and Caicos Islands. So she's all right. She loves it. Can you give your books? Yes, links are in the bio. You can download a copy of Investing Unplugged. Okay, so thank you all. As well, prediction of UK. Oh no, so many. I'll have to do another one later because otherwise I'll be talking too long and I better run. But thank you all for being so nice to me, so good to me. Thank you. And like I said, most of you I think are relatively young. The years do go by quickly. Try and mix work, family, faith if you follow one, and friends. The best days of my life were the ones where I managed to do each bit of those things, worked hard, spent a bit of time with family or spoke to them, was out with friends, and I don't know, maybe visited a mandir or whatever, forget the religion thing if you're not into it, but have all of those quadrants. That book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the happiest people apparently were the ones who could mix all of those things. So you're not unbalanced by doing too much work or too much loafing around with friends, whatever it is. Try and get that mixture and know yourself, know what you find fulfilling. And trust me, what you find fulfilling at 20 won't be the same at 30, it won't be the same at 40. So keep on revising that. For me, at my older age now, I'm in the late 40s, I think more about bigger purpose because you're sort of more aware of your, you realize for the first time since you were in your, first time ever that you're not going to live forever. In your 20s, you think you're going to live forever, which is great and you should think that. But yeah, try and take some time out to plan your life, the bucket list and all those wonderful things. But if you find a purpose, whatever that is, and it'll change over time, that will help. And be careful who you choose as life partners. I don't say that out of any personal issues, but because, and Warren Buffett said this, there are very few decisions in life you have to make which are critical for the rest of your life. There are probably about 5, he said, and one of them is life partners. So you've got to be really careful how you pick those as well. And it could make a big difference. But yeah, take that time out to plan. I used to have a document. I don't mean plan as in, I'm going to be, at this age, I'm going to be getting this qualification and then this qualification and then I'm going to be seeing. I'm talking about plan as in which parts of the world you want to see as well. If travel, like for me, is a major part of it, and countries were a major part of it, or whatever it is. It might be I want to feed kids who are orphans in India. I'm chairman of a charity called the Lumbar Trust, and that's literally what they do. So it doesn't matter what it is. Purpose might be I want to be a politician, whatever it is. But try and find that bigger thing, because it leads to longer term happiness. I've noticed in people, and there's research to show it. Because at this young age, we're often on a conveyor belt and just doing the next thing, the next exam, and you've got to do those things. But if you look up and you look at the bigger picture, longer term as well, whatever that could be, whether, like I said, you might say, I want to be a skier in the Dolomites, God knows where the trendy places are now, but whatever it is, as well as some of the work career stuff, you make a list of it, then at least you'll have some direction towards it, and make it holistic, like I said. So there's room in there for friends, family, faith, fulfillment, fun, and funds. So there you go, the 6 F's. There's the 7 F, you can make that up yourself, it's TikTok, I know. But the 6 F's, okay? Friends, family, funds, faith, fun, funds as well in there. Okay. Somebody said, don't be sheep. Yeah, we can all be shepherds. But yeah, don't be, I know what you mean, don't be sheep. Don't just follow blindly, and fight. I know what you might say, well, you're privileged, Mr. Patel. Yeah, well, I'm not privileged, but fight for what you want. It's not going to come to you. As the chairman, he was a friend of mine, the chairman of the London Metal Exchange, which is probably the most profitable exchange in the world, said, nobody owes you a living. And sadly, it's true. Nobody owes you a living. But the good thing about that is, yeah, you're going to be a boxer. You're going to be fighting. And when you fight for something and get it, it's worth a hell of a lot more than when it's given to you. It's worth a hell of a lot more. It's a hell of a lot more fulfilling. Of course, I'd want everything given to me, because initially I think, I want to be great. I just sit on my ass and I get everything given to me. But actually, when I fought for it and won it, and I think, yeah, I'm glad I won it. I'm better because I won it. Okay, so do that. Thank you for the nice comments. Right, I'm going now. Thank you. I appreciate all of you. Good luck and God bless you all. Happy Easter, happy Good Friday. And look up I'm sure you all know what Good Friday is about, but actually look that up as well. So enjoy it all. And thank you all for being on. I really appreciate it.